Okay, mathematicians, today you are starting with inequalities. Inequalities are something that you learned back in 7th grade. 8th grade you didn't really do much with inequalities, but now that you're in 9th grade or in Math 1, you need to use inequalities again. So I want to go back and review a few things with you. You might want to write this down because you'll need this throughout this unit. So there are 4 inequality signs. There is our greater than sign, and notice that the greater sign is on the left side. We read inequalities by starting on the left and reading to the right, just like we do in a book and just like we do with the words. So noticing that the greater side is open first, we read this as greater than. So 10 is greater than 8. The less than sign, you'll notice, has the smaller side on the left. So same thing, we always read it from left to right, just like we read a book. Since this is the smaller side, we would say less than, like x is less than 7. Now, we also have this greater than sign with a line underneath. That means it's part of the equal sign. So we have a greater than or equal to. So I will show you how to graph greater than or equal to and what that means. We also have our 4th sign, which notice we have the less than sign on the top. And we have part of the equal sign again. So this is read as less than or equal to. So let's go ahead and use that on lesson 1. And you are, for this one, just going to be graphing the inequality because it will get much more complicated, but I want to come back and make sure that we know how to do these basics. Okay, the first one, notice that I have x is less than or equal to 1. Since it has the equal sign, that means x can be 1. So I'm just going to put a solid circle on 1. Because it is equal to 1, that means x can be 1. Well, x can be a lot of things. So notice that it has to be less than or equal to 1. So it can be 1. But then x has to be smaller than 1. So then it could be 0. And what's also smaller than 0? -1. And it would actually go off into infinity. So now I need to highlight all the values that could be x. Well, it can be 1, it can be 0, it can be -1, so that means that I'm going to shade to the left side, meaning off into infinity. X can be any number as long as it's 1 or smaller. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. This says m is greater than -2. Well, that means m has to be larger than -2. So it cannot be -2. So it can be -1 because that's larger than -2. It can be 0 because 0 is greater than -2. And it can even be 1 or 2 all the way into infinity. So how do I show this on the graph? Because it technically could be -1.9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle the -2. What that means is I'm just going to circle it. I'm not going to color it in. Since it's just circled and not colored in, that means it can't be -2, but it can be everything up to -2. I also notice that it can be -1, it can be 0, it can make 1, 2. So it can be any value that goes off to the right. Because what I want you to notice is if I put in -1 is greater than -2, that's true. If I put in that 0 is greater than -2, that's also true. I can say that 1 is greater than -2, and that's true. And I could go and give all of these values greater than -2. Now, notice that if I chose from one, let's say if I put in -5, -5 is greater than -2. That is not true. So -5 is not a solution. Okay, let's look at our next one. Notice my next one does have x is less than or equal to 4. Since we have the equal sign, we are going to go to the 4 and we're going to make a solid circle. Okay, because 4 is one of the answers. Now I have to think about what number can also go in for x. Notice I can have 4. Now, can I put 3 in? 3 is less than 4. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Can I put 2 in? Yes. Can I put 7? 7 is less than 4. No, 7 does not work, so I'm not going to use that one. Notice that all of my numbers, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, they all go to the left. So that's how I graph x is less than -4. Now let's get into a few of the tricky ones. Notice this one says -5 is greater than or equal to a. So what I'm going to do is I can actually flip this so it's easier to read. I can write the a, and notice that the a has the little side, right? Has the less than side. So I'm just going to write it's the same sign, but since I flipped the a to the other side, I have to flip the sign as well. And then I go ahead and put in -5. Okay? So notice that this time a is less than or equal to -5. Since the equal sign is there, I can actually color in -5. Now a has to be less than -5. So if I want to say -4 is less than or equal to -5, that's not true. So I'm going the wrong direction. So I'm going to put -6. Is -6 less than or equal to -5? Yes, that's true. So that means I'm going to color to the left. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at my next one. We'll do one more. Notice that I have -2 is less than b. So I'm going to want to flip this if you want to. I mean, otherwise you can graph it like it is. But notice that it's easier sometimes to flip it. So I'm going to flip the b to the other side, which means I need to flip my sign. Notice that it's the open side is opening to the b, so I just draw it so the opening side is pointing to the b. Then I still have my -2. So let's go ahead and sketch this. Since this says b is greater than -2, there's no equal sign, so it can't be -2. So I'm just going to circle -2. I'm not going to color it in. Now b has to be larger. Since b has to be larger, then I'm going to try -1. Is -1 larger than -2? Yes, that works. How about 0? Is that greater than -2? Yep. So that means I am going to go ahead and mark everything to the left. Okay. And I did say last one, but I forgot. Number 9. Number 9 is important here because look at our r is negative. We cannot graph this if r is negative. So there are two ways to do this. If I have -r is less than or equal to -2, I can divide both sides by -1, and I get is greater than, r is less than or equal to +2. There we go. -2 divided by -1 is a +2. So notice that basically I took my negative signs and I flipped both of them. So now I have r is less than or equal to +2. Since the equal sign is there, I'm going to go ahead and color in my circle for 2. And then I'm going to start checking my numbers. Can I say that 3 is less than or equal to 2? No, that does not work. So it does not go to the right. Instead, it goes to the left. And we can double check that. We can actually go ahead and put in 1 is less than or equal to 2. That is true, so I've colored it in the right direction. Okay, go ahead and complete this worksheet.